Hey there, everybody. Welcome to our Walking Dead Daryl Dixon Season 1, Episode 4 reaction and review. This episode to me is very interesting in that I think there were some fire individual moments
Mhm.
visually. This is a really, really cool episode. And yet I'm also coming out of it sort of thinking, why did this happen? Like, why did that happen? Why are you splitting up the two main characters? Like, I find myself frustrated with a lot of big picture questions, and at the same time, I really enjoyed a lot of what we actually got.
Yeah, I feel like splitting up Isabel and Daryl was, obviously they want to create some drama for us, the viewers who are like, why? Why split them up? Like they're
Yeah,
really great together. And it felt like something that was probably going to happen maybe in the finale as part of like a cliffhanger. So it popping up in episode 4 was actually really shocking to me.
it was really shocking. The reasoning behind it was pretty shocking. It just felt like there was a lot of potential still with the two of them together, especially since we're hardly at the end of this Operation Laurent, if you will.
Yeah.
They still, we still got to make it to the nest. And it's just like, okay, can we just have everybody together as we're getting to this destination? Would that be okay? Come on, please.
Yeah, I mean, put on your hard
All
hats.
right, all
I
right.
just felt like the reason to split them up was it just felt a little bit flimsy. Like there really wasn't a reason to split them up. Is Isabel staying with Quinn really gonna be able to like let everybody get out of here like safely? Like what kind of pull does he really have? I mean, it's not enough to change anything.
Yeah, we'll get a little more into that. Everything else, we saw the fall of Pigeon Man, which is a
Oh.
story that I have a lot to say about for very bizarre reasons. But okay, before we go any further with any of this, be sure to hit that subscribe button. We are here throughout all of The Walking Dead, Daryl
Mhm.
Dixon. More reviews, discussions, all about what's coming up. And by hitting that subscribe button, you help support us to do these videos we love so much. And the Walking Dead franchise is so large at this point. And, we have more Dead City coming down the road, which, by the way, that Eiffel Tower shot at the, I mean, not Eiffel, that Statue of Liberty shot at the
Yeah.
end, that for a split second, I was like, are they ever going to do a crossover? But I don't
Oh, no.
necessarily, I don't think that's necessarily the case.
No, and, the Rick and Michonne spinoff is gonna be coming up as well, and we're gonna be covering that here too, so hit that subscribe button. Okay, let's start with Isabel's feelings for Daryl, because I feel like this has really been the biggest question on a lot of our minds. Like, is she doing this out of concern, or is she doing this because she has feelings for him. She's falling in love with him. She's already in love with him. I mean, I know it's been kind of a short time, but at the same time, I mean, it's a really intense situation, and
Yeah.
feelings can develop a lot faster in intense situations or shared intense
Yeah.
experiences. I mean, Sylvie called it out to kind of be like, hey, like, what's going on? Do you have these feelings? And she says, no, I'm just concerned for him. But I mean, Isabel, as much as I love this character, she's lied to a lot of people.
Yeah.
She's lied to herself. She's lied to Laurent. She's lied to everybody. And the person she lies to the most is herself. So does she have feelings? You guys leave it in the comments for us. I say yes,
Mhm.
absolutely, especially after seeing, Quinn and Daryl together and
Yeah.
like that they look the same. That fight was like two Daryls beating each other up.
It's the Spider-Man pointing at each other fight. No, I think she does. I don't necessarily know if she recognizes the full extent of it yet because, like you said, she does lie to herself. And
Mhm.
I think a lot of times in general, in situations like this especially, you don't want to admit to something like this because you know how inherently difficult it is. Daryl is not exactly Mr. I open up to other people. I think there are multiple women throughout the Walking Dead history who have had feelings for Daryl. I don't think it's just like a couple of people, but I think time and time again, there's a pretty significant roadblock here, and that he is very much a loner. I think Isabelle, in her mind, well, one, she knows this is a world where people can die at any given moment. And
Mhm.
I think, two, the idea of romance in the midst of like what they're trying to do it's really inconvenient. Like, it is a distraction from the actual end game here. And
Yeah.
I think she realizes that what's going on with Laurent and getting him to the nest, like, that is priority number one. This is somebody, she's a nun. She is used to sacrificing for the sake of this greater good. And I don't think she's gonna let any possible feelings get in the way of that.
Well, that I think is one of the big issues that she's facing as well. She is a nun.
Yeah.
She has, you know, gone down this path and taken these vows, and she takes them very seriously. So I think for her, the idea that she would have romantic feelings for Daryl is just a no. She just is absolutely not, because then that means that she has to walk away from something that means a lot to her, that she, gave a vow to
Yeah.
for the rest of her life. And I don't think she wants to give that up. I think that will also be like a really true conflict in her.
All I would say is that if this ever happens, take your time, guys. So don't rush this along. I am here for a slow building relationship.
Mhm.
I like the will they or won't they sometimes, and I think Norman also realizes that people aren't watching Daryl Dixon to watch Daryl be some sort of like paramour. I think they're watching Daryl to hear him say awesome things, take out zombies in awesome ways,
Yeah.
have some great one-liners, which, by the way, he had a number of really good one-liners, plus also that story that later on he was just like, I just made all that up.
Yeah, one of the things about the Daryl character that I know the show has decided on is basically that they were just like, we're never gonna really show Daryl with anyone. We'll hint at romance and we'll kind of circle around it, and maybe we'll do some stuff, but it will never be on screen. It'll be
Yeah.
off screen kind of thing. And yeah, maybe he'll hook up with people, and it'll be implied. I understood it at the beginning when they first sort of introduced this character who's kind of like,
Yeah.
he's not an innocent, but at the same time, he's very much a loner and to himself. And they're very protective of the character, that they didn't want him to just be with anybody, or that the fandom would get upset,
Yeah.
that Daryl's with the wrong person. But like, somewhere along the line, you need to just really take a chance with that. I mean, he's a grown man at
Yeah.
this point. His character has developed a lot over the years from where we first met him, where he really wasn't able to open up to anyone. He has opened up in all kinds of ways throughout his journey to becoming the man that he is now. And his relationship with Isabelle has opened up in ways that we haven't really seen. Like, if he's going to have a romance, this is a really good person for him to have a romance with. But yes, take your time. But what I don't want to see
Yeah.
is them lead me along this path to nowhere, which they've done a bunch of times.
Yeah. Okay. I'm gonna put on tinfoil hat here because this is
All right,
here's the thing.
tinfoil hat time. Let's get to the theories.
I think they are building at least in this direction to a certain extent. I think we're going to get to a position where Daryl recognizes he has some sort of feelings for Isabelle. I'm not saying even necessarily that he will act on them, but I think he's going to become aware of this, because here is the big fundamental question at the heart of Daryl Dixon. You've moved this character to France.
Mm-hmm.
You guys already have a season 2. Presumably, you could have a season 3, a season 4. But the big question mark is, okay, when are we going to bring Daryl back home? Because it's eventually going to become unrealistic if you just have Daryl just like twiddling his thumbs around France for years on end. And if he has a reason to stay, as
Mm-hmm.
in he has feelings for someone, and sort of Isabelle and Laurent sort of become like this little family for him, this would be the thing that convinces him of, okay, you know what, maybe I don't need to go back home. Maybe this is my home. And the show, if they're going to stay in France or even Europe at large, they have to figure that out at some point.
Yeah, and I know everybody wants to see, Daryl back with Carol and everybody else, and I think we will see some of that, but I wouldn't be mad if his story has moved on into Europe and that he may want to stay there, that he is developing a family unit there as well. I mean, that this show, it at its core is
Yeah.
about relationships. The Walking Dead has always been about relationships first and Walker second. And I think where we've seen him growing from The Walking Dead with the family that he chose
Yeah.
there, that can bring him into this new space where he can choose a different family.
Okay, I just want to say the best part of the episode, the opening. I understand that not even all of that took place within the realm of reality, but
No.
it was shot so cool. And the underwater sequence in particular, like that's something this show hasn't done all that much of. Like we're used to sort of the standard zombie fight on land, but to see Daryl under was just like, man, visually, this show is doing things that the flagship show didn't do, and
Mhm.
it makes it stand out. And even if we've all seen zombie kills 1,000 times, like I there's still something about that that I really appreciate.
No, I think that opening sort of dream sequence or whatever's going on in Daryl's head was really important because he has been really struggling with this whole Laurent is the chosen one. Is he really like, he has been able to pick up some things that he wouldn't have known about Daryl, but it's kind of like, did he get lucky about something? Like it's kind of like he doesn't really know. So to have that vision of watching Laurent, praying, having the walkers around him, having them walk away from him, I think Daryl really is struggling with, is there something special about this kid or not?
It's a hard thing to answer because I think it's intentionally hard. I mean, we even see this in all these scenes with Janae, which, by
Yeah.
the way, I'm pretty sure I called her Gennett in the last episode, like some sort of, the southerner who is illiterate that I am. But
That's not true even a little bit.
see,
No, listen, Janae, oh my goodness. This is one of the first characters in a long time on this show where I just didn't know what she was going to do with that baby, because when that
yeah,
baby was crying and she basically rolled her whole face at it,
yeah,
I was just like, okay, they have a choice here of, are they just going to make her, pure evil where they're going to take this baby and like, yeet it into the sun,
yeah,
or is something else going to happen? And because her motivation, I think, is twofold with everyone. She said one of her motivations is that she doesn't want Laurent out there because if Laurent's out there, it gives people false hope and it takes people away from believing in her, which she wants to be sort of the person that is helping everyone. Everybody
yeah.
has to come to her. And if he's out there, that's a problem. And I think that's one of it. I think she will probably try to experiment on him. That'll be something else, but I think that's kind of secondary. But
Yeah.
I was very curious to know what she was going to do when she went over and held that baby. I was like, this, I felt like, because they've had so many characters that have done so many just really awful, evil things in front of people to rule with fear.
Yeah.
I was worried she was like, hey, I'm going to show you guys why you have to follow me. And if you don't, then this is going to happen to all your children. But like watching her like cradle the child and like, rub its head, I was like, when's the moment gonna come where she's gonna crush his head? And it never came. So she really does, she's very a lot more complicated than I thought she was gonna be. And now that we're at episode 4, and I'm like, oh, there's only 2 episodes
Yeah.
left. I really wish they had spent more time with her.
She is really unpredictable, and I can't figure
Yes.
out if that's a good thing or not because,
It's a good thing for me.
okay,
For me, I am, because like I truly thought she was gonna do something and she did nothing. I was like, ooh.
I think the thing I'm just missing right now is where's the mad scientist part of this again? Like we had all this stuff set up at the first episode and the end of that, and I was really curious about all of that sort of stuff. And yes, the whole
It's coming.
it better be coming. The sequence with the baby was cool and terrifying and like all those other sort of things. It's just I want more of Janae. I want less of Janae's stooges. I do not care about anyone who's around Janae other
No.
than Janae.
Yeah, no, like I said, I think her first motivation is to get rid of Laurent, so people have to focus on
Yeah.
her. But I think because she's doing these experiments, and when she found out about him and she's like, oh, I heard rumors about this
Yeah.
boy. I didn't know if it was true or not. Oh, it's true. That's where I think the mad scientist then is kind of coming in to be like, okay, 2 birds, 1 stone. Let's get him out of the public eye of everyone. I'll do some experiments on him. Maybe it'll help me with the other thing that I'm doing. Let's see how it all shakes out.
Since you mentioned birds in there,
Mhm.
it's time for the Pigeon Man conversation.
All
All
right.
right, this is a very deep cut for everyone, but this here is why this scene was very meaningful to me. I am a child of the 1990s. I grew up. I mean, I was born in the 80s, but 90s television greatly influenced me. In particular, the 90s animated era of Nickelodeon. And for like 5 people out there, you know what I'm talking about right now. There was this episode of Hey Arnold, one of my favorite cartoons growing up, about Pigeon Man, a man with all of these pigeons, and in the end, when the pigeons just fly, I was like sobbing as like a 7-year-old child, or maybe I was 8. I don't remember watching Pigeon Man, and the whole time I'm watching Pigeon Man on this show, I was just thinking, were the writers Hey Arnold fans or something? But at the same time, I know that there are people who keep pigeons in big cities and all of that other sort of stuff, but this made me just as sad as watching the Pigeon Man cartoon for the first time.
I feel like I still have my tinfoil
Okay, all right.
hat theory. We're getting into another theory here about those pigeons because we've seen him already. And he was like, when Daryl was like, "Oh, do you have a radio?" "No, I have this pigeon. How long will it get there?" Maybe a month." It's just like, and Daryl's like, "Oh, come on, like a month." I wonder if those pigeons all had messages and that was,
Yeah.
why he was like, "Oh, you need to free them." That's not just about his love for the birds, but he was maybe on his way to set them free because they have messages that are all really important and that's going to come back around again. I don't think it was for no reason.
I think you're probably right. I think as much as the emotional moment was of seeing the pigeons fly away, this show does only have 6 episodes, so I'm sure your idea here is correct that they're going to get something out there. The question is just what.
Yeah.
Speaking of questions, the question also just still is, and we alluded to this at the start of the video. Why split Daryl and Isabelle up at this point? It feels like the show is trying to give them more separate storylines, build out the world a little bit, and maybe this is a situation where Isabelle really feels like she can do more good away from Daryl and Laurent. But it's like I'm on board watching all of them together at this point. You didn't need to make up a reason to split them up.
No, especially this reason where it's like, "Oh, they'll have everything blocked everywhere, Jana is everywhere kind of
Yeah,
thing. There's no way to get out of here unless I stay with Gwen." Like, why?
yeah.
We saw Quinn and Janae together where he's basically like, "I'll give you Daryl if you give me this painting," sort of thing. And Janae even said, Quinn's just a guy who's here for a trade, and he will always be like that guy here who's here for a trade. He seems to have like a little bit of influence, but nothing that's going to allow Laurent to leave the city. Like, under no circumstances is he leaving the city. So, why would Isabelle really think that staying with Quinn is going to change something? Like, she must really believe that she has enough influence over Quinn, which she may, but Quinn doesn't have enough influence over anybody else.
I just sort of feel like if you're Daryl in this moment, why not just talk about your own? You've got like a 97 level skill in sneaking. You have been through countless zombie supply runs and or every other horrible thing you have survived on the flagship show. I just have a hard time believing that even if Janae is controlling all of Paris, watching the streets, that he cannot find a way to work his way past all of that with Isabelle in tow. I mean, heck, I could imagine them just like digging a hole somewhere and just like tunneling their way out.
I would have liked to have seen Isabelle on this adventure. Like, going into the next episode, the idea that I'm just going to be watching Isabelle try to work over Quinn, like, I'm not really that interested in that. He's Daryl Light.
Yeah, I just don't care that much about Quinn. I mean, if we're being totally honest here, there's 3 characters I care about on this show. Daryl, Laurent, Isabelle. I would say Janae is like 3B if they can really develop her a little
Mhm.
bit more, but I want to see more of these 3 together because they're what make the show so interesting, and I am a little fearful that we're going to go to Dead City route where, as good as I think Dead City was overall, we split up Maggie and Negan more than I thought we really should have, and then we spent these time with these other yahoos whose names I do not even remember at this point.
No, the Dead City
Yeah,
supporting cast, like, I'm sorry, all you guys, like, you did the best you could, but
yeah,
they weren't developed well enough for me to care about them. It was sort of like what was happening by the last few seasons of The Walking Dead, where I think there was this episode where Carol's boyfriend died, and I was just like, I don't even know who this is. And I looked him up. I'm like, oh, he's been on like 25 episodes. Like, I just don't. They're not doing a good enough job with the supporting characters. Where on this show they
yeah,
really are. They're really making me care about everyone, even Quinn. Like, I don't care about Quinn, but they've definitely given him enough that I'm like, there's some weird layers going on.
yeah.
Like, I think he cares that he has a son, and I think he cares, about Laurent to a certain degree, but he is also using him to try to get Isabelle back in his life. Like, when he was like, I think it can be, Isabelle, me, and Laurent, I think he means it. I think he may not know what it actually means to be
Yeah.
together, but I think he actually means it.
I think some of it, what makes these characters interesting, at least to me, I don't know a lot of the actors in this show that well, other than
No.
Norman, obviously, and Clemens Posey, who plays Isabelle. Like, she's really good.
Oh man,
Uh,
she's great.
Yeah, like we only see so much of them because of that runtime. So you really got to hook us in right away. And this world feels unique. The cast feels really different. The setup is here for these final episodes. So please, Daryl Dixon, stick this landing. Find a way to set up another season 2. We know it's coming, so we at least
Yeah.
don't have to worry about that.
Yeah, the thing that I'm most looking forward to going into this episode is that if they have to split up Isabelle and Daryl is going to be on his own with Laurent, that what we saw at the beginning of this episode, where he is kind of Daryl starting to get not confused, but he's definitely playing all sides out in his mind of like, is Laurent something special or something that could help, or is he just a regular kid? I feel like this episode has an opportunity to explore that more
Yeah.
with Daryl as they really get the two of them get to know each other. And also Laurent getting to know Daryl more and sort of having this mentor of this father figure that's out in the world with him, a protector, a provider, someone that can teach him how to do those types of things as well, should he want to learn.
All right, we're gonna make like pigeons and just sort of fly away now. But
Oh.
be sure to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any more Walking Dead Daryl
Mhm.
Dixon coverage.
Yeah.
And thank you to our patrons for your support. We
Thank
really
you.
appreciate that. And we'll see you guys here next time.